best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. There was this phrase that got used in comic books quite a bit in the marketing. It's still used a little, but not nearly as much. But for a period of time, and I remember this was heavy in the 80s when I was reading comics, collecting, enjoying them, and then selling them in the 90s. I remember this phrase would come out, and it was used so frequently that it became kind of a joke. We would respond with like, no, we didn't. Nobody did. But that phrase is because you demanded it. And if you go back, you look at any older comics, particularly Marvel, you'll see that's the slogan that's used quite a bit to justify new books. Because you demanded it, here is this new book. And that it would just, I don't know, it was a cliche at some point because we all knew it was not, nobody was demanding this book or the books that people were demanding. It was at the marketing department. The company itself believed this was the book to do. Now, in fairness, during that time period, they did tend to, bring books out that they believed they could sell, books that did correspond with what the market and audience was telling them. But still, the idea of because you demanded it was a little bit of a cliche. All the same, it was even though it was kind of jokey at times, there was still a nice part to that message. It was, hey, we hear you. We understand you want this comic. We understand you need it. Therefore, we're going to give it to you. Therefore, you demanded it. You tied our hands. We're going to have to give Wolverine his own solo book, the most popular character in the entire Marvel universe. We were thinking, I'm not sure, but then you all demanded that Wolverine get his own solo book, and so we're giving you what you want. That was a pretty fan-friendly way of going about things. Today, they still do it, but it's a lot less frequent. They do not do the because you demanded it. In fact, if anything, the you demanded it is code for toxic fans wouldn't shut up, and if we give them what they want, we're somehow Nazis, or at least enablers of Nazis. That's how that phrase has kind of evolved over time. I'm always shocked. There was it's where it's not exactly you said the quiet part out loud. It's that you said something very bafflingly weird. And that happens on a semi-regular basis where comics are concerned, where people will say things like, just because the fans demand it doesn't mean they should get what they want. What a weird thing to say. I mean, again, what exactly are fans demanding too? It's often used to try and infer that the fans are demanding things like, Sue Storm should stop being the Invisible Woman and go back to being the Invisible Girl. And when we see her in the comics, she should mainly be cooking for Reed. Like that. But nobody. I don't think anybody's asking for that. Honestly, I don't think they are. Of course, I'm sure you could scour the internet and find somebody, but no one in any numbers is asking for that kind of thing. No one in any numbers is asking for Captain Marvel to turn into a whore. Nobody's asking for that. Nobody's like, you know what? She shouldn't be a full member of the Avengers and instead should be their prostitute. Nobody wants that. And yet this expression of you can't give the toxic men what they want. Do you realize what kind of crazy white supremacist world we're running around in general? Because where I saw this recently was I had done the video about hey, let Miles Morales just be Miles Morales. And in this case, I didn't even say that quite right. It's like, let Miles Morales be Spider-Man, be the Spider-Man character. You don't need to make him Thor and Captain America and everything else. It's like, if we gave the fans what they wanted, it would be a white supremacy world. It's like, no, that was one of the responses I got. I got this angry mail. I'm like, I'm saying you should let that character be himself. I'm not saying you should turn Miles Morales white. I'm not saying you should erase Miles Morales. I'm saying you should actually put Miles Morales front and center as he is, his current race, as the character he is. Because people like that. They made a movie about it. We enjoyed it. It was good. I don't get how you, we would like to see more Miles Morales as Miles is somehow translated to a white supremacist argument. That's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it takes a really, some big brain thinking there that I admit my puny little brain can't wrap its head around. Like, hey, making Miles Morales Thor is cheapens Miles Morales as Spider-Man. I don't get it. Anyway, but this idea of because you demanded it was kind of a cool way for the publishers to at least have this even if it was somewhat pretend, back and forth with the customers, with the fans. You demanded it, we gave it to you. And for a while, I think that it may have worked as a marketing technique where even if a fan didn't demand that, it's like, oh wow, a bunch of people wanted this. Well, it must be good then. I guess I should buy this and check it out. That used to be kind of the mentality that would spring out from that. Today nobody believes this, and today the I was thinking about this in the sense of I was reading about some of the build up to Trial of the Amazons, the crossover that's going on right now. And the answer I got was, or in the interview, they gave this phrase that was weird. That was weird. It was the fans didn't ask for this, but we know they're going to enjoy it. And what I thought was like, why would you say it that way? Like, why would you open with the fans didn't ask for this? That's a weird way of doing it. I mean, I agree. I don't think the fans asked for that, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, if you have a good story to tell, go nuts. But I wouldn't I wouldn't have your marketing be nobody wanted this, but we're giving it to them anyway. Like that, ugh. Like that's the opposite of because you demanded it. Like I mean, what is the expected response to that? Like, oh well, I mean, if you're really behind the character, if you really believe it's going to be good, then I mean, I don't know. It sounds awful to me, but I guess I got to trust you. I don't think you have that. I don't think a lot of the publishers have that kind of credibility right now. It's odd. I think there's some moves that they've made in comics that are good moves, but they wind up kind of in the weirdest way, almost screwing themselves. So it's like you go in and like Nubia, for example, as Queen of the Amazons. That's not a bad idea to shake up Themyscira and kind of the different tribes and everything else. And Nubia is a character that's been around for a very long time, and having her had a bigger prominence. I mean, okay, I mean, none of those are bad ideas. But if you're going to execute it by saying things like "It's about time that Nubia became queen," what do you mean it's about time? Like, has Nubia been hanging around for the last 30 years, getting kind of constantly playing second fiddle in a comic? No, she's barely appeared in comics for the last 30 years. Is it that it's people been clamoring for a black woman to lead the Amazons? I mean, again, I don't think that many people would be against it, but I also don't think anyone's been clamoring for that. I don't think people have been clamoring for much of anything. I think that in general, even the most hardened hardcore Wonder Woman fan doesn't spend a lot of time wondering about how the monarchy is going to evolve on Themyscira. I just don't think there's a lot of people that are really talking about that one way or another. So if you're going to market it by saying, you know, people finally demanded that Nubia become queen, it's like, nah, nobody was demanding that. And it feels at times that when you say things like this, you're kind of admitting, hey, we didn't have a story idea for this, but we wanted to do it anyway. So we were doing it, and we're going to kind of, paper up the fact that we didn't really have a good thought out plan here by saying, well, I mean, it'd be racist if we didn't do this because everybody's been asking us for this. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I like Nubia as a character because I had read a lot of Wonder Woman back in the 70s when Nubia showed up. It's been a long time since Nubia showed up. And I remember her introduction as this is a pretty interesting character that actually has some complexities to how she reacts around Diana and where she fits in all this, and you could do some cool stuff with her. And I think you could do a pretty cool Wonder Woman story where Wonder Woman, I don't know, becomes framed for something and she has to go on the run, and Amazons are hunting her down to stand trial for this thing she didn't do, and she has to turn to kind of the one friend nobody saw coming. It's Nubia because she's been off the radar for a while, and the two of them kind of have to hunt down things together. Like, I think that'd be a pretty fun adventure, and I think during that, in that process, Nubia could be portrayed as a badass and built up pretty cool as a character. But instead, if it's like, hey, here's this character that hasn't been around for a while, and we're finally righting some injustices by letting Nubia be the leader, because the white people have led the fictional Amazon paradise island of Themyscira for too long, like that's a weird way to get there. And I don't know that elevates Nubia. I don't think that, 20 years from now, people are going to be like, wow, you remember that time Nubia was queen? It's amazing. I don't think so. I think if you give Nubia some badass adventure where her and Wonder Woman have to kind of go on the run and have to battle a bunch of Amazons and solve some mystery and clear her name, and in that process, Wonder Woman owes a debt to Nubia and she becomes this hero within the Amazons, that's something you're going to remember 30 years from now. So, give the fans what they want because they demanded it. It's been an interesting evolution of that phrase, and I don't. And at this point, it feels like giving the fans what they want is bad. We can't possibly do that. That will just do all the wrong things if we do that. And why? I mean, it is still a consumer business. All it does is it just makes me think the people writing the comics do not have any kind of real, finger on the pulse of what the fans actually want, which they don't in many cases. These are kind of videos, by the way. It always generates some jackass coming into the comments going, "Hey, Perch is starting to sound like your boy Zach. Boy, good thing he finally woke up to stuff." Like, okay, hey, look, I'm just giving the fans what they want. Thanks for listening.